Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Runali if you're new here. For today's video, I wanted to do kind of like a step-by-step introduction to makeup type of video. I wanted to talk today about what makeup products you use where, why you use them, and how to apply them. So hopefully this helps you out if you're a beginner into makeup or if you're just, interested about learning a little bit more about makeup. I'm obviously not a makeup artist or anything like that. I've just kind of self-taught myself makeup, so I wanted to teach you guys what I learned. So with that being said, if you guys want to see this video, just keep on watching. So I've just zoomed you guys in a little bit so you guys can see a closer look at my face. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to push my hair back with a hairband so that I don't get any makeup in my hair. Most of makeup is going to be very personal, so primer is just going to be based on what your skin type is and what things that you want it to fix. So I like to put primer on my cheeks because I have a lot of dryness there, so I like to do like a luminous hydrating primer there. And then in this area, which is called my T-zone, so my forehead and my nose region, I get oily and I get a lot of pores. For my cheeks and my chin area, I'm going to be using this Becca First Light Priming Filter, and I'm going to put this all over here. So this is also pretty tacky once it dries down, and that's really nice because it's just going to give your foundation something to stick to, so then it lasts a little bit longer. Now for my forehead and my nose and a little bit here on my cheeks, that's where I get pores, so I'm going to use this pore filling primer, which is the Benefit Professional Primer. This is just a mini size that I have. Now we're going to move on to foundation. So foundation, again, it's going to be based on what your skin type is. So for me, the majority of my face is pretty dry, so I like to steer away from matte foundations because obviously that's going to be pretty drying on my face. But I definitely recommend finding out what your skin type is because, so if you're oily, you might prefer a mattifying foundation, and then if you're dry, you might want a more radiant foundation. I'm going to be using this Too Faced Born This Way foundation. I actually just got this yesterday, but I really like it. This is more of a natural finish to the face, so it's not going to make my face super radiant or super matte. The way that I'm applying it is just with a beauty sponge. So this, I just got it from like Sephora in like a pack of 3 different blenders. I'll show you them later. And then this, I really like it because it has like a circular it has a circular flat edge. So I've just pumped some of the foundation onto my hand right here, and then I'm going to dip the brush or the beauty blender, or what is this called? I'm going to dip my beauty sponge into that foundation, and I'm just going to bounce this onto my face. So the reason that I do this motion instead of like a streaking motion is because you're going to see those lines. I also prefer to use a sponge over a brush because, again, with a brush you can see the brush strokes a lot more. Again, I like to blend this down to my neck and to my ears as well because we don't want it to look like they're 2 different colors. And the reason for foundation, by the way, it's just to make all of your skin the same color. So a lot of people, I personally struggle with a lot of redness around my cheek area. So this is just gonna make everything the same color. It's not really gonna like cover pimples or anything like that. That's mainly what concealer's for. Yeah. So this foundation gives me medium to full coverage. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more around my cheeks. It's also a really buildable foundation, so that's really good. So you can add more without it looking too cakey. Cakey just means that, it's gonna look very heavy and like you're wearing a lot of makeup. I'm going to go in with concealer, so I'm using the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and I like to put concealer under my eyes where my dark circles are. I usually like to use a lighter concealer because that's gonna give me a more brightening effect, and then I also like to highlight with my concealer, so that means that I'm putting it right between my eyebrows, a little bit on my forehead, and then on my nose, and a little bit on my chin. This concealer is super high coverage. This is like the concealer that every YouTuber everywhere always talks about, so I like to use a very little amount because a little goes a very long way with this. So to blend in my concealer, I'm going to be using this other sponge. So I got these 3 sponges in a kit from Sephora. So then this side has a small tapered edge. So I'm going to just use this and again bounce it into my skin so that we're not streaking up the concealer. Now, if you want to use concealer to cover like acne or pimples, I don't recommend using a brightening concealer because like I said, the brightening is just going to pull attention to that part of your face. So you would rather use a concealer that matches to the same color as your skin tone because then it'll just blend right in. So now that I've blended in my concealer, I'm going to set it in place with powder. So when you say set it in place, it's basically just that, first of all, it doesn't move around. And then second, we all have lines under our eyes. That's just how our eyes are formed, I guess. You might have heard that we don't want our concealer to crease or something like that. And so this is just gonna make sure that it doesn't sink into those lines. So I just like patting out that concealer one more time to make sure that it's all nice and flat, and again, it's not sinking in. I must have had some like glitter or something on my brush because I don't know if you guys can tell, but I've got glitter all underneath my eye. We're just gonna pretend that's not there. I'm using this Coty Airspun powder. This smells super good, but every time you open it, it flies everywhere. So I'm just gonna take my sponge again, and this time I'm gonna use the flat side of my brush. So I like to just dip it into my sponge and then tap it out a little bit so that I don't get too much. And then I'm just going to apply it again, dabbing it on. So I also like to contour my nose. So I'm just taking the same sponge and I'm putting it on the edges of my nose. And that's just using the same Coty Airspun powder. And now I'm going to leave that powder there for a little while. That's just called baking. I don't know why it's called that, but it's basically just letting the powder sit so that it kind of creates more of a strong contrast. The first thing I do is I take this type of brush thing, which is called a spoolie, and I just use this to brush through my eyebrows to make sure that they're all facing the right direction that I want them to be in. For my eyebrows, I have two pencils that I use. This is called the Benefit Contour Pro pen, and it's really cool. It comes with like 4 different colors. And the purpose for that is to do a darker color on the outer edge of your eyebrows and then fade in a lighter color on the front of your eyebrows. And then on here there's also a definer shade, which is kind of like concealing the bottom parts of your eyebrows if you got pencil anywhere where you didn't want it to be. And then there's a highlighter part. So I don't really use the concealer and the highlighter part because if I'm concealing my eyebrows, I prefer to use straight up concealer. But I do use the lighter shade and the darker shade a lot. I actually used up all of the deeper shade. So I have this other eyebrow pencil, the LA Girl Shady Slim Brow Pencil. And so this is darker. So I'm gonna use this to fill in the outer part of my brow. With my eyebrows, I don't like to do like long streaks because that's just gonna look super fake. So I like to do kind of like short, feathery strokes. So as you can see, I've just filled in the outer parts of my eyebrows with that darker color, and then I'm going to take that Benefit pen and I'm gonna go into the lighter shade, and I'm just gonna use this to fill in the front of my eyebrows. Again, with this, I don't like to do like long strokes. I like to do, especially if you can see your eyebrows usually have just like the hairs just going upwards. So I like to do like upwards flicks. And then I usually like to take the spoolie and just brush through my eyebrows several times to make sure that the pencil isn't just grabbing to certain spots of my skin. So that is how I do my eyebrows. From there, I'm going to move on to eyes. So the first step in eyes is always a good eye primer. An eyeshadow primer is basically just so that the shadows stick really well to your eyes and they really blend well. So when I say blending, it's basically just when you put on eyeshadow, you don't want it to look just like one color, and see the stark difference. You want to see like the nice blend into the different colors and into your own skin. So taking this MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly, and I'm just going to be using this to prime my eyes. I totally forgot to set my eyebrows in place, so I'm going to be taking this Essence Make Me Brow. This is just like a eyebrow gel mascara, that's what it's called. And it's just gonna make all my eyebrow hairs stay in place and not move in random directions. So I'm going to be doing a more basic look, hopefully, so then I can focus more on technique and how everything works. I'm going to go in with a couple transition colors. So transition colors just mean more, again, colors that are closer to your skin tone, maybe a little bit darker. So I'm going to be using my Jaclyn Hill palette for this look. This palette has a lot of really good like neutral brown tones. But for my transition color, I'm going to be taking this shade in this palette and I'm going to be putting that all over my crease. So my crease is just when you look straight where your eyelid folds in to the rest of your eye, that's your crease. So I'm just taking a big fluffy brush and I'm going to dip that into that shade, and I always like to tap off the excess because otherwise you're getting way too much on your eye. I recommend starting with less and then building to more because it's easy to build up to more, but it's not easy to take away after you've already put too much. So I'm just going to put it into my crease, and I like to do like a circular motion. This is just really going to help it blend into my crease, and so then it just diffuses and goes into the rest of my skin. I'm going to go in with this shade and I'm going to put it just on top of where I put that last color, the transition shade, and this is going to be more of my crease shade, so this one's actually going to show up, whereas this one doesn't really show up. Also, when you're putting colors into your crease, use matte shades rather than shimmer shades. This is just because when you're putting matte shades, it creates more of the actual shadow that you're going for, whereas the shimmer shade is kind of just going to blend everything together. So for this color, I'm going to go in with a little bit of a more tiny brush and tap off the excess, and I'm going to put it right on top of where I put that transition shade. So my favorite part of eyeshadow is adding shimmer to it because I think it really pops. You don't have to do this. This is just what I like to do. So I'm going to take this shade right here and I'm going to put this all over my eyelids. So I'm going to take it on a brush like this. This is more of a packing brush as opposed to the other brushes which I use, which are more fluffy, so they're good for blending. This, I'm just going to pack it onto my lid. I've decided that I don't really want to go in with that shadow on my eyelid, so I'm going to go in with this shade right here and I'm going to put it on where I put the last shade. So this is just going to be on like the inner half of my eyelid. So now for my last shade, I'm going to do a darker color on the outer corner of my eyes. This is again just going to add more to that shadow, and I like to go in with a matte color as opposed to a shimmer color. So I'm going to take this shade down. I'm just going to use this and tap it into my shade, and then of course tap it off and then tap it on to the outer corner. So now that I've just packed that on to my eyes, I'm going to blend it out. Just a little bit more of a narrow brush, and this is going to be again a fluffy brush, so I'll be able to blend out the edges. I'm also going to dip this into the very first transition shade that we took, and this is just going to help everything be really seamless. At this point, we're pretty much done with the upper eyelid, so I'm going to go back onto my face makeup and then we'll come back to do the lower lash line after that. So now I'm going to go on to my face, and so the first thing I'm going to do is brush off this bake that I put on my nose. So I'm just going to brush it towards the inner part of my nose. Now I'm going to go into bronzer and contour. So I'm going to be taking this Hoola bronzer. So the point of bronzer is basically just to add color back to your face, because after you put in the foundation and the powder and all of that stuff, it's basically just going to make your entire face look super white and like you have no dimension. So bronzer is just going to add that like sun-kissed glow. My bronzer just looks like this. It's the Benefit Hoola bronzer, and I am going to use this on a big brush to bronze my face, and then you'll see how I do it differently for contour. So for bronzer, I'm going to put it on the outer perimeter of my face, because if you think about it, when you're in the sun, that's where you would get hit the most at your high points. So I'm going to go ahead and do it on the outer rim of my forehead. And I'm going to put it on my jawline. So now for contour, I'm going to be using that same product, but I'm going to be using a more tightly packed brush. So So I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to, again, tap it out so that I don't get too much. And I'm going to just apply it right here. The other thing that you can do to get a more really refined contour is I'm going to take that same loose powder, the Coty Airspun powder, straight side, and I'm going to just put this like a clean line under that contour. This is real, this is me, this is who I'm meant to be, this is me. So I'm going to be taking this Wet n Wild highlighting powder in the shade Precious Petals. And I'm going to be taking this brush. So I know, so a lot of people use fan brushes. I don't really like that because I don't feel like I have that much control over where it's going. But I like this one because, again, more control. It's a little bit bigger, so it's easier to blend out. And again, since I really love my highlight, I want it to glow and pop. So I'm going to be taking my setting spray once again and spraying my brush. So highlight is basically just going to go on the high points of your face. So your cheekbones, and I like to carry it up along to my temples as well. And now I'm going to take that highlight and I'm going to use it to highlight my brow bone. This is just going to add more shadow, more dimension, so then when you turn to the side, you'll just see that little bit of glow. And I'm going to put this on the inner corners of my eyes. This just kind of helps open up your eyes and make it look like you're more awake. So, and I'm going to go in with mascara. This is just going to make my eyelashes longer, lifted, more voluminous. So I'm going to take this L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara. This is my favorite mascara. This is like pretty much dried up by now, but I refuse to throw it away because I don't have a backup. And so I go under my eyelashes and I wiggle the wand as I go up my eyelashes. Now I'm just going to brush away that bake that we had underneath the contour. Now I'm going to go on with liquid lipstick. This is pretty much just like lipstick except it's liquid. And this is just going to give me a matte finish, so it's going to make sure that it stays all day long. I really like this actually. It does stay pretty well even through food and stuff like that. And when it does start to fade, it fades really naturally, so it doesn't look like chunks of lipstick coming off. So. Oh, I forgot to tell you. This is a Wet n Wild Liquid Catsuit Liquid Lipstick in the shade Give Me Mocha. So now for my last step, I'm going to take my Urban Decay setting spray and I'm just going to spray this all over my face. This is just going to make sure that everything stays the whole day and it doesn't wear off. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that it helped you out and hopefully you learned a thing or two about makeup that you didn't know before. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe down below. And if you have any requests for future videos that you want to see me do, go ahead and leave them in the comment sections down below. I would love to do them for you. And with that being said, I will see you in my next video. Bye! So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, far away, they say no one will love you as you are. I won't let them bring me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the darkest words wanna calm me down, okay. I hope this video didn't turn out too long. Probably did. But, you know, that's just how it'll be sometimes. Okay.
Who wrote the book on goodbye?